What's up, everybody? It's a special edition here of Between the Ears as I've got Eugene, Napoleon on here with me. And typically throughout football season, we don't do a whole lot outside of our typical scheduled how West Virginia beats whoever the day after here on Between the Ears. And then we do our game day show. But we had to throw this one in there because there's been a lot of conversation being had on social media about Jimbo Fisher being fired, number one, first and foremost. And secondly, a lot of West Virginia fans who are upset about the game in Oklahoma are starting to do this whole thing again where, oh, let's bring Jimbo home, just like the old Nick Saban thing where they thought that they could bring him home at some point in his career later on when he's won 15 national titles and he's ready to come back home. Look. Before we get really even deep into this with the whole West Virginia thing, let's just talk about the move first. Okay, Texas A&M ditching Jimbo and all the money, the cold hard cash that they're going to have to pay this man to not show up to work, Gene. I mean, if you told me, Schuyler, I'm going to give you X amount of $1,000 a year to not show up to work, I'd probably take it too. But for this man, he's making $76 million to not show up to work at Texas A&M University. Here is the breakdown of his pay. Okay. Within the first 60 days, Jimbo Fisher is owed $19.4 million. That's more money than any of us will ever see in our lifetime combined. Within 120 days, it's $7.27 million. And then for every year from 2025 to 2031, he's owed $7.27 million exactly every single year. This man never has to coach or work another day in his life if he doesn't want to. But there's that chance that another team or school or whatever is going to come calling and want him to resurrect their program or their situation. It's going to happen. His name's going to float out there. He's too good of a coach, has had too much success. I think to retire this early, I think he may have a chance of finding another landing spot. But just talking about this Texas A&M thing first, Gene, just give me your thoughts on paying a coach this much money, first of all, when the contract was made, and then second of all, to even agree to something this ridiculous in terms of a buyout.
Well, okay. I always say this. I'm sure you remember, and I've said it many times. I'm a former sports agent myself.
Yeah. So you know all the ins and outs to this.
Yeah. So when you're negotiating deals, it's not in this case, he had a really good agent. Okay. Or I'm not sure if he negotiated this himself or his agent, whoever did, brilliant move. The bottom line is you're not going to feel sorry for a university if they say yes to these terms and yes to this buyout amount, and then they're the ones who says, you know what, we're good, we don't want you to show up for work. Then you already know what that comes with. Then here's my buyout, here's my payout. Cool. Here's my thing. In a world where you have an insurmountable other issues going on, it really makes you think about the microcosm of sport versus the reality of real life issues, right? This man is going to make $76 million. Okay. One would ask this. Do you know how much money a university would have where they're going to pay out $76 million over a period of time, and then you still got to go out and get a new coach?
And not just a coach.
No, and they won't. They will go get a name brand. Okay. So here's the thing that people really got to understand about you talk about this is big time sports. This is big time. You're paying $76 million, and then if you bring another coach in that's a name brand, you're gonna have to pay another God knows how much money to this guy.
Blank
okay.
check.
Okay. And then we're talking about and complaining about what we have in our situation, right? So that's why when I look at this, sometimes it bothers me, sometimes it doesn't, because it's par for the course. It's business at the end of the day. This is the cost of doing business at that level. So, no disrespect to coach. Listen, Jimbo Fisher is please. He's earned his rightful spot as one of the best coaches to ever do it at the collegiate level. Don't get it twisted. I get all of that. I don't think anybody is worth. What was his contract? $110 million?
Something around there, yeah. I think it was like a 10-year, $100 million some dollar deal.
Okay, all right. So look, let me go find a brain surgeon and give him that money.
You're not kidding.
You understand? So let me go find the guy that's trying to cure leukemia and give him that money. See, I'm when it comes to that kind of stuff, I'm the wrong guy to talk to, because that's a lot of freaking money, and there's a lot of things that could be done with money like that. But at the end of the day, that is the cost of doing business at the major college level. I get it, but man, you can buy a lot of fries and put a lot of cheese on some burgers for that kind of money. I'm gonna tell you. Just saying.
And this is a very steep thing for A&M because, again, they're not just going to hire a coach. They're going to hire a coach with a big profile. And not only that, but they're going to have a lot of money to allocate toward their staff, right? I mean, they're going to want a top-notch OC, top-notch DC. I mean, this is going to be an expensive bill that they're going to have to pay to two different staffs, essentially. So going to the West Virginia side of this thing, look, it's not happening. Like, I understand why people are getting on this train because, look, you're coming off an ugly loss to Oklahoma. You got embarrassed. It's year 5 of Neal Brown, and you're still kind of going through these. Is he on the hot seat? Is he not? As soon as he gets off the hot seat, he kind of coaches his way back toward that direction, but then he kind of coaches off of it, and then it's back and forth. I understand that. I understand that the schedule has been incredibly weak this year. When you look at all of their wins, Pitt is 2-8. TCU is in a down year. Texas Tech has had an up and down year without their starting quarterback. I get it. You lost to Houston. I get it. But the big thing here is that no one is talking about. The minute Ren Baker says, Neal, you're done. Get out. The clock starts on Ren Baker because the guy he hires as the head coach is who he is going to be evaluated on. And if that coach doesn't do better than what Neal Brown has been doing in these last 5 years, again, I know it's a low bar, but if he doesn't do that well, then Ren Baker's not going to have a job. Just like Shane Lyons essentially got ran out, right? So that's the thing here. If you're Ren Baker, you got to be careful. And I think that's why not only he, but the university probably wants to see Neal Brown continue to be the coach, at least through his contract. Now, I think it's like through 25 or 26, can't remember off the top of my head. But the longer he sticks around or the closer he gets to the end of that deal, the more that buyout continues to drop.
Absolutely.
Clearly, it's not anywhere near Texas A&M level, but it's still, for West Virginia, that's a lot of money. Yeah. And the thing that I've kind of seen is, can West Virginia even do it? Can they? Maybe. I don't really think it's wise for them to do that, and here's why. If you spend all this money buying out Neal Brown and you fire your staff, obviously you have some money tied up there. You're going to give this money to Jimbo, and then what do you have left to retain players? And I get that it's coming from two different shovels, but guess what? There's a lot of mini shovels that are shoveling into those same two big shovels in terms of the MAC, the trust, whatever. Those are the same donors that are going to be paying for either your players or your coach. So if the money's being spent on the coach, you don't have any money to spend on the players. And if you don't have good players, it doesn't matter who the coach is, right?
Bottom line, it's the cost of doing business at this level. Now, okay, I'm just going to be transparent.
Yeah, go for it.
West Virginia is a special place. The culture of West Virginia is a special place. You cannot bring just any coach the same way you can't just bring any student athlete to Morgantown, West Virginia. Let me be clear. It is a special place. Character speaks volumes. And I've always said this. I would rather our university and the direction of our university be headed by someone who understands the importance of the principles of what West Virginia has already been built on.
Yeah.
The Don Nealons of the world, man. All right. And people may say, oh, listen, the Don Nealons of the world. You understand? Bill Stewart. Those type of men speak volumes because they're going to recruit the type of student athletes that's not going to embarrass your program or your university or the great state of West Virginia. All right. On top of that, the men that they bring with them, they're going to hold them accountable to be high character men that's going to recruit high character individuals. All right. The thing I love about Neal Brown, he reminds me of a young Don Nealon. What he stands on as a man, I respect that. You can't just bring anybody to Morgantown, West Virginia, just because you think they're going to win a few games. I'm going to tell you why. Because the minute that does not happen, all the chaos in the middle of all that nonsense is going to put a black eye on your program.
Yeah.
Who needs that? Now, this is going to sound crazy to you, Schuyler. I would rather have our program revered and respected for what it stands for than to win football games. I said it. I would rather, when I go places and they see this flying WV, it has value to it. It has value to it. When I bring guests on Relatively Sports, you hear how we talk about Coach Nealon and that entire staff. You know why? Because they're great men of character. And we had some hellified teams back then. And we can do it again, but you build that with bringing in the right person that's going to recruit the right type of student athlete.
Yeah.
That's going to represent in the community, on and off the field. That stuff is important to me, man. And it should be important to anybody that's a West Virginia fan, alumni, donor, whatever.
Yeah, and that's why I agree with, look, Jimbo is a good coach. Don't get me wrong. And for those that say, if West Virginia was interested, could he win here? Yes, he could win here. I mean, any coach that has had any sort of success can win at no matter where it's at. It doesn't matter what level, what conference, what team, and especially at West Virginia, where there has been success at every level, at every conference they've ever been in. And you could argue with just about every coach that they've had in the modern era. So, yeah, I think he could win at West Virginia. And for the folks that are saying, why would some of these fans want Jimbo? Because he's getting fired. Well, look, Texas A&M and West Virginia, there's a little bit of a difference in terms of the money that they have available to them and also the recruiting hotbed that they have versus the one that West Virginia lacks, right? So there's a major difference in expectations. Now, that's not to say that Texas A&M is a more, storied program or that they're, whatever, but they are just naturally positioned better to have success long term than West Virginia because of the resources they have in terms of money and the talent that sits in their own backyard. West Virginia does not have that. That is the cold, hard facts. But I mean, and plus, like Jimbo, look, yes, he's getting fired, but he was 45-25, I think it was his record at A&M. And that's coaching in not only the toughest conference, people note that out all the time.
Right.
Arguably the toughest division in college football in the SEC West. You had Alabama, LSU, Auburn, Ole Miss, Mississippi State. I mean, these are not sleazeballs by any stretch of the imagination. So this is a very accomplished coach. Yes, it may not have lived up to the expectations of the folks at A&M, but that would certainly raise, I think people's eyebrows if he had that kind of success anywhere else, certainly at West Virginia. But here's what I want to say. The reason, again, going back to Ren Baker, he's not going to want to make a move earlier than he has to. If Neal wins one of these last 3 games, including the bowl game, he's staying. I'm just telling you now. The only way, in my opinion, that he gets canned is if he loses both of these games to Cincinnati and Baylor and loses the bowl game. Because now you're at 6-7, you can say, 7 losses in year 5, it's time to move on. If he gets to win 7, which I think you and I have talked about several times on various shows throughout the year, 7 kind of seems like it's a little bit more of a safe spot. You got a little bit of wiggle room because now you can look, we played a lot of true freshmen, a lot of redshirt freshmen, a lot of sophomores, and we won 7 games. What can we do with a quarterback that now has a year of starting experience under his belt with that young group in year
Sure.
two? I think you can say that. Yes, it'd be terrible to lose to one of these last two teams, but that's what you can hang your hat on. You're not going to want to spend that type of money on Jimbo Fisher. And Jimbo, I'm telling you, if he's going to get into another coaching job, he's not going to take a discount. Why would you? Just because he's getting paid 70 some million at A&M doesn't mean he's going to come home and take a discount. He's not sitting down at any table unless a substantial amount of money is being